When historians rank the worst monarchs in Spain's long, blood-soaked history, one name stands alone at the top. There's no debate, no controversy, just a universal damning consensus. Ferdinand VII was the most depraved, most grotesquely unfit king to ever wear the Spanish crown. But what you've heard about him, about royal marriages, noble bloodlines, the dignity of European monarchy, is only the tip of a monstrous iceberg. Behind the velvet curtains of the Spanish court was a man so disturbing, so sexually twisted, that even the Pope had to step in and do damage control. You think kings lived with honor? That royal weddings were magical affairs filled with grace and romance. The truth is something far darker, because Ferdinand didn't just rule a kingdom, he ruled from within a palace of nightmares. The Spanish throne became his hunting ground, his bedroom, a theater of trauma, and his most terrifying legacy wasn't war or politics, but what he did behind closed doors. Before he was ever called El Rey Felon, the felon king, Ferdinand was a prince so anatomically deformed and sexually dysfunctional that his own mother-in-law described him as not even a man. His condition was so horrifying that multiple eyewitnesses, royal doctors, foreign diplomats, even his victims, left records detailing the same chilling truth. This wasn't court gossip. This was documented madness, anatomically real and politically catastrophic. What you're about to hear isn't just a scandal. It's a story so humiliating, so shocking, and so grotesquely tragic, it will completely shatter your understanding of royal power. It begins on a wedding night so traumatic, so utterly absurd, it became infamous across Europe and forced the Vatican to take action. October 1819, Madrid. Inside the cold, silent walls of the royal palace, a 16-year-old girl waits in her wedding chamber. Her name is Maria Josefa Amalia of Saxony. She's a child raised by nuns, sheltered from the world, so innocent she still believes babies come from storks. No one has told her what to expect tonight. Her German attendants, too embarrassed to explain, simply dress her in white, hand her a rosary, and leave her trembling in the candlelight. Then the door opens. She expects a prince. What walks in is a 35-year-old man. Fat, sweating, limping with gout, his lips thick and wet, his eyes hungry. But it's not his face that makes her blood run cold. It's what she sees below the waist. Ferdinand suffered from a condition so extreme, so bizarre, that modern science still struggles to classify it. Macrogenitosomia, a grotesque, freakish enlargement of the genitals, but not in any way that resembled normal human anatomy. According to eyewitnesses, his penis was thin like a candle at the base, but thick as a fist at the end, and as long as a billiard cue. Let that image sink in. This poor girl, who had never even heard the word sex, took one look and bolted, screaming, running barefoot through the palace halls, chased by her naked, drunken husband. Ferdinand, furious, stormed after her, his massive, deformed member swinging between his legs like some weapon from a nightmare. And when he couldn't catch her, he did what any rational monarch would do. He stormed out of the bedroom, completely naked, and began shouting at the Queen's attendants. He ordered them to prepare her within 15 minutes. When Ferdinand returned to the bedroom, drunk and enraged, he expected obedience. What he found instead was the unmistakable stench of human waste. Maria Josefa, barely more than a child, had lost control of her bowels out of sheer terror. The King of Spain stood in his own wedding chamber, confronted not with a bride, but with a soiled bed and the raw consequences of his own monstrous presence. Disgusted, he recoiled and snapped, "Queens do not possess the fragrance of civet," then stormed out of the room, refusing to touch her for over a week. But this wasn't the first time Ferdinand's grotesque condition had turned a royal marriage into a nightmare. This was just history repeating itself. Back in 1802, when Ferdinand was just 17, he married his cousin Maria Antonia of Naples. She was his first wife and his first victim. On their wedding night, Maria Antonia later wrote, "The prince simply stared at her blankly, touched her awkwardly, and had no idea what to do next. He was aroused, but confused, incapable. For 11 months, they tried and failed to consummate the marriage. 11 months of humiliation, shame, and tears." Her mother, Queen Maria Carolina of Naples, wrote letter after letter describing her daughter's pain. "My daughter weeps. The prince feels nothing. Attempts to encourage him are useless. There is no pleasure, no effect." The truth was undeniable. Ferdinand's deformed anatomy made sex not just difficult, but physically impossible. Eventually, in an act of pure desperation, the Spanish royal court brought in a Catholic priest, Ferdinand's own confessor, to teach him explicitly how to perform the basic duties of a husband, a future king of Spain being given a private sex education by a man of God. But when Ferdinand finally managed to consummate the marriage, the results were devastating. Maria Antonia suffered 2 miscarriages, likely caused by internal injuries from his grotesque, mismatched anatomy. She died at just 21 years old, her body broken by a husband whose curse was now her own. That could have been the end, but instead, it was the beginning of something far worse. By 1814, Ferdinand VII had reclaimed the throne of Spain, and with it, he reclaimed his power, unchecked, absolute, and terrifying. The shy, fumbling boy who once cried in shame had mutated into something else entirely, a predator with a crown. Every night, dressed in a dark cloak, he slipped out of the palace and disappeared into the filthiest alleys of Madrid. His destination? Brothels so notorious, decent citizens crossed the street to avoid even looking at them. His favorite was run by a madam known only as Pepa la Malagueña, a woman who catered to the darkest tastes of Spain's elite. And Ferdinand wasn't alone. He brought with him a crew of degenerate young aristocrats, men just as morally bankrupt as their king. Together they turned Madrid's red light district into a royal playground. In those brothels, Ferdinand turned his deformity into a party trick. Witnesses described the same ritual, the King of Spain, drunk on cheap wine, exposing himself and challenging his companions to measurement contests. He always won. His friends gave him the nickname El Bien Dotado, the well-endowed one. But behind the drunken boasts was something far darker. Ferdinand had developed a fetish, one that would become the centerpiece of his private legacy. According to Count José María de Villalobos, the king once boasted, "They leave my bed certain that no other man can give them the pleasure I gave them. And do you know what I enjoy most after possessing them? Collecting the cloths stained with the proof of their maidenhood." He wasn't joking. Ferdinand collected bloodied rags from the virgins he deflowered. He labeled them, he stored them, he treasured them. While Spain lost its American empire, while reformers were executed, while the economy withered, Ferdinand was building his personal museum of human suffering. His travels across Spain left behind a trail of victims: widows, peasant girls, palace servants. Each encounter added another trophy to the chest, hidden in his chambers. Still, one thing haunted him. He had no heir. In 1816, he married again, Maria Isabel of Braganza, his own niece. She was 19, plain and Portuguese. While he continued his nightly raids on Madrid's brothels, she worked to bring culture to the court, founding the Prado Museum. In 1818, she became pregnant. The baby was breech. Maria Isabel was fading fast. The doctors told Ferdinand they had to choose, save the mother or save the child. He didn't hesitate. "Save the child," he said. "Cut her if you must." The cesarean was performed without anesthesia. Halfway through, Maria Isabel woke up. She screamed as they cut through her womb. The baby was already dead. She bled out on the table at just 21. Ferdinand felt nothing. Within a year, he was hunting for another wife. In 1819, he remarried Maria Josefa Amalia of Saxony, 16 years old, raised by nuns, terrified of him. After their disastrous wedding night, she resisted him for months. She believed sex was a mortal sin. He even appealed to the Pope for help. The Pope ordered her to submit, but she agreed only on bizarre conditions. She would pray the entire rosary before each encounter, keep her eyes closed, and imagine the Virgin Mary. 10 years of lifeless, rosary-accompanied encounters followed. No children. When she died at 25, Ferdinand had failed again. By 1829, desperate, he married Maria Cristina of Bourbon II Sicilies, his niece. She came prepared. With the help of the royal physician, she had a silk cushion built with a 4-centimeter hole to limit penetration and prevent internal injuries. It worked. In 1830, she gave birth to Isabella II. 2 years later, another daughter followed. But Spanish law forbade female succession. His brother Don Carlos expected the throne. Ferdinand changed the law to allow Isabella to inherit, triggering the First Carlist War, a conflict that killed hundreds of thousands. After his death in 1833, Maria Cristina ordered an inventory of his private chambers. They found the chest, dozens of blood-stained cloths, each labeled with a name and date. The dates matched moments of political repression, suggesting Ferdinand used sexual violence as an extension of his tyranny. One entry stood out: Anna, 15, daughter of Colonel Bermudez, who had come to beg for her father's life. She left violated, her father executed. Maria Cristina burned the collection, but the testimonies survived, and so did Ferdinand's legacy. He wanted to be remembered as El Deseado, the desired one. Instead, history remembers him for what he truly was, a predator with a crown. If you found this dive into the dark and forgotten corners of history compelling, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Unexplained History. Your support helps us continue to uncover these chilling stories and bring them to light. Also, don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We have more shocking tales and hidden truths coming soon, and we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on today's story, or suggest a topic you'd like us to explore next. Thank you for watching.